And so even in failure, there is success because of what you learn. Now, if you learn it and don't repeat it, that's the key. You can't keep doing the same bad thing over and over, but to fail is to learn.
Y'all, today's show is so good.
But number one, I've never seen an intro like that.
It is my hope and desire that not only will episode 30 still be fun, but episode 300 will be even more fun. You were made for something great, so go and be awesome.
Ten seconds remaining.
And welcome to the show. My name is Renee Hastings, and I'm your host of Renee Speaks. Y'all, today's show is so good, and that is because it is sponsored by Executive Help Now. At Executive Help Now, we are all about simplifying your business so you can focus on what really matters. From streamlining operations and managing administrative tasks, to producing podcast shows and keeping everything organized. Our team is here to help you thrive. If you're ready to make your life just a bit easier, hit us up at www.executivehelpnow.org. Y'all, our guest today is fantastic. Her name is Irma Neal, and she is a financial coach, leadership expert, and author of Leading in Chaos: Insights to Lead Through the Storms. With decades of experience guiding organizations through change, she helps leaders navigate uncertainty with resilience and empathy. As the owner of Onyx Rising, specializing in DEI and financial change management, Irma champions leadership rooted in love and care. A former Deputy Mayor of Indianapolis and Vice President at 2 Fortune 500 companies, she now runs 3 businesses. Y'all, put your hands together for Irma.
Hi, I love your intro. It's great. It really is.
Thank you. I am so excited to have you on the show today, Miss Irma, because, and I hope it's okay that I call you Miss Irma. I just feel like being a mayor and all, there's some level of respect, dude.
Well, I've been called worse than that, so.
But I'm so excited to have you on the show, not only because of your vast experience and your broad depth and knowledge of the financial landscape, but because you've figured out masterfully how to actually take that knowledge and experience and parlay it into something that we need to have even more so in these days and times: love and empathy in leadership.
Yeah, and I think it's because of how I grew up. I grew up poor, working poor, 2-parent family, and we always learned that every person has value. Every person needs respect, and you treat every person with respect, irrespective of their station in life. That does not matter. Everybody deserves respect and to be seen, and that's how I've tried to live my life.
Well, and it shows. I mean, that is so great. Tell us a little bit more about that. Like, I too can relate to growing up in a poor upbringing and not having much, and having instilled in us values that said, you are a person. Everybody is a person. Everybody bleeds red.
Right.
So that doesn't make you any better than anybody else or anybody else better than you. And everybody deserves to be treated well. So tell us a little bit more about your foundation and your how you actually developed what you needed inside to become the woman you are today.
Well, there were a couple of things that I think stand out from my parents, particularly. My father all instilled in us that there's no such word as can't. That's what I heard my whole entire life. There is no such word as can't. Some things may be harder. Some people may put roadblocks in your way, but with perseverance and consistency, you can do just about anything you want, anything in life that you want to do. And then from my mother, I got in all things get an understanding, straight from the Bible. Heard that every day. And so I ask a lot of questions. I make sure that I understand what's being required of me, what you're asking, and then quickly, is it something that I can do easily, or is it something that I'm going to have to take some time and learn some new things to do? So it's just, and then being the oldest in the family, and I'm sure you can relate to this, being the oldest, you did a lot of taking care of your younger sisters and brothers. And in that, you learn leadership because you've got to tell them what to do, and you got to do it in a loving way, because you care so much about them. So in our culture, if you're the oldest female, generally you've got some leadership skills because you're taking care of the little ones.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. I can definitely relate. Even though there's only like a year and a half between my next brother, and it was just my brother and I for the longest time. And we are a product of a single parent household. So our mom raised us but she still taught us to take care of one another. Like we had to be there for each other. We had to have each other's back no matter what was going on and look out for each other. So what wise parents you had to instill in you this can-do spirit. Even if something isn't easy, it's okay. That doesn't mean it can't be done. It just can't be done easily.
Exactly.
So there's a little bit more work involved, but what's wrong with work?
That's exactly right. What's wrong with work?
Right.
It brings its rewards. Work, whether you get paid or not, there's still a reward to it. So yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think that's one thing I would love to share, especially with our younger audience, to encourage them that if they come up with challenges or if they face challenges, which they will, they can expect that it's going to happen. Someone may ask them to do something that's not exactly in their comfort zone, that they would be wise to try to do it anyway. Because you never know what you're made of until you're actually stretched beyond your current boundary or limit that you've set for yourself. Do you agree with that?
I agree totally with that. And I can take it to the fact that I've owned 4 small businesses, right? 3 of them were successful, very successful. Either I sold them or they're still going on or whatever. The one that failed is the one that taught me the most. And so even in failure, there is success because of what you learn. Now, if you learn it and don't repeat it, that's the key. You can't keep doing the same bad thing over and over, but to fail is to learn.
Absolutely. I think that some of the best lessons that we learn, like you said, come out of a difficult time, of a valley, being out in the wilderness,
Right.
all these hard things that we have to go through truly teach us the most, because it makes us reflect on what got us to where we currently are, which is not where we want to be.
Right.
And how could we have done something different? What choice could we have made better? What other factors could we have taken into consideration before leaping down a road? Or who else should we have consulted with to get wisdom before embarking on this particular thing that led us to this place? Does that make sense?
Exactly right. I agree totally. And one thing you said that was real important, it says, who can you reach out to? When you're in trouble or when you're in chaos, or especially, you always have allies. have to find the allies and use them. So many times we don't ask for help, and there's help right around the corner. The book I wrote, Leading in Chaos, is a compilation of true stories of extreme office instances, from drug overdose to extreme bullying. And excuse me, the one key thing is ask for help. I didn't get out of chaos all by myself.
Right.
You know,
That's
I used allies to help me through those storms.
Yes, absolutely. We have to do that. We can't be too proud or be embarrassed to ask,
Exactly.
because it is that pride that is going to keep you from being able to get wisdom, heal from whatever it is that you're dealing with, or to get allies on your side, because people don't know what's going on in your head. People can't read minds. People can't, just know what you're going through unless you open your mouth and say
Unless
something.
you open your mouth. You hit it on the head. Unless you open your mouth. And that leads to the other part of my life at financial coaching. Again, so many people don't open their mouths. On social media, you got it going on, girl. You got everything up, everything in place, and you're just making it. And the real story is you don't even know how to get the next Uber ride. You can't even afford it,
Right.
So again, because people don't talk, we don't talk about money in our culture, particularly. We don't talk about money,
Yeah, that is so true. I remember even growing up, my mom said, "Don't be in my business. Don't be asking me how much money I make."
Exactly. Exactly. And how many times did you hear money don't grow on trees? Of course,
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, and it's just brought up. So in our culture, that is the way that it had been growing up for me and my generation. I'm hoping that things are changing a bit in this new generation of parenting, where parents are more open to expose their children to financial wisdom and literacy, so that their children don't have to continue to repeat the generational cycles of brokenness.
Exactly. I agree with you. And this generation is just so smart, so savvy,
Yes.
and have access to information very easily that we didn't have. So I'm real hopeful of this generation and how they can break the cycle that I lived through and you lived through, financially at least. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Irma, what inspired you to focus your work on leadership during the times of chaos? What was your inspiration?
I just have always been like a sponge in terms of trying to learn new things. And my goal is to learn something from everybody I meet. And I just got thrown into situations. I remember distinctly I was working as a telephone operator, and there was a work stoppage. And I've always been calm in bad situations. I don't, even though I'm panicking inside, it doesn't show on the outside. So I've always been the one who spoke up, even as a high schooler. I was the one who spoke up in those difficult times, even when we were faced with consequences that weren't necessarily good ones. And so when I got into the workplace, again, it started out as just me being a type of mediator or person who was calm when things were going wrong. And as I got into supervision, with the values that I had and the fact that I had experience, if you will, dealing in difficult situations, then that is what started this whole leadership. I became a turnaround artist. I mean, in bad situations, I'd be called upon to come in and clean it up. And I enjoyed that because you can really see the progress from the chaos to the vision of everything working together. So.
Right. And it's so great to be a part of that. And I love that you had a vision in your own head of what it could look like. And
Exactly.
then you had the resources and wherewithal to actually bring it all together to make it happen.
Exactly. Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
You're absolutely right. You have to have, as a leader, you have to have the vision. You have to communicate that vision, and you have to answer the question of why. What's in it for me? Why should I follow you? Where are we going? How long will it take us to get there? What's my part in helping us get there? All those questions have to be answered, and good leaders know that. They have to do that.
Right. Now, I love that, and I agree with that 100%. But what if we find ourselves as a leader having an idea, not having every I dotted or every T crossed, but just knowing like this idea is going to work. We just have to work together to get there. So there's this term called starting ugly.
Right.
What is your philosophy on that? Do you think we should start ugly, or do we need to wait until every I is dotted and T is crossed to execute the plan?
You can't wait for every I to be crossed and every T crossed and every I dotted. That you can't wait for that. But what we do have to do is buy-in sometimes takes a minute. It takes a while, but it's well worth it. Okay. And buy-in is collaborative. I'm talking about collaboration. I'm talking about trying not to leave anybody behind. And that means even the troublemaker. You got to bring them into the fold. You know, one of my mentors said that it's better for them to be peeing in than peeing out. Because when they're doing that, you can deal with it. So you do. So you really do need to be collaborative. And I think that's where a lot of leaders make a mistake, is that they want to go so fast, because buy-in takes time. But if you do the collaboration, it makes it so much easier to get to the vision that you're trying to reach, the destiny you're trying to reach.
That is so good. So good. So further to that, then, what's the first step that leaders should take when chaos hits?
The first step is calmness. Be calm, because your attitude, if you're upset, it's going to make things worse. But the second thing is to act. You got to act quickly in chaos. You have to assess and act quickly. Because if you don't do that, it festers, it gets worse. And that can be worse by the hour as opposed to by months or something. Right. So I would say assess, calm, assess, and act is the things I would say.
Be calm, assess, and act quickly.
Right.
I love it. That is just pure genius, golden nuggets right there. Because, you know, most of us are so reactionary. Exactly. As you're talking about being calm, and how people will basically feed off of whatever it is you as the leader are doing.
Exactly.
And that resonates with me. I remember when I was flying for the very first time, and I was with my children. And I was terrified to get on this little plane to take us from Madison, Wisconsin to Orlando, Florida for our Disney trip. But I knew that if I showed the fear and I showed how scared I was, that my kids would be afraid too, and they may never want to fly. And we know that, you know, you have to travel. You have to fly to see the world, because there's so much more beyond your own neighborhood borders. Anyways, that's a whole nother story for another day. But it's so true. So that just definitely resonates with me.
Yeah, it's amazing that so many people, even when you don't know it, people are looking at you for cues when you're a leader. You know, just little things. I remember hearing complaints about supervisors who walked through the office and didn't say good morning, or, you know, people just watch leaders to see how they're going to react. And you and I both know, not only do they watch, they test. They test you to see how you're going to react in certain situations.
Yes, absolutely. So we need to always be setting the right example, being that role model and emulating the behavior that we want repeated as a leader. That's what I hear you saying.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly.
So then how can leaders balance resilience and empathy when the pressure is high? I mean, because, you know, when you're in something and the pressure is on, it's hard to be nice sometimes.
That's true. That is very true. And I guess the only way I would answer that is with each episode of chaos, you get stronger, right? Mm-hmm. Each one. And so you get to the point where because you practice it, you know, it's like muscle memory. Mm-hmm. The more you go through, the easier it is to react the correct way, to keep and I grew up in a time where in corporate America, where I was the only African American and the only woman in the room at the table. Mm-hmm. I read a lot of self-help books, but the one thing I did is take the emotion out of decisions. I practiced that. And so now at this stage, I can assess a situation unemotionally, you know, with just the facts and deal with it that way. But that takes practice. And like I said, each episode that you go through makes you stronger.
Mm-hmm. So can we dive into that just a little bit deeper? Maybe I'm getting my own little self-help here. But how do you take the emotion out? Like if you're in it and you feel in some kind of way, how do you, are there techniques or different things that you do to take the emotion out of making a decision?
Well, for me, it's always been take a deep breath, take a step back, don't speak in anger, and this is good for my marriage too. I stayed married 47 years.
That's a hand clap. Hold on. That's a hand clap right there because 47 years married.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a widow now. He was killed in a car accident after we were married 47 years. But it was good practice to not speak in anger. Mm-hmm. So that's something that carried over into the workplace too. Is you don't speak in anger. You can't take that back. And and if it's very emotional, you're reacting with panic on the inside. But like you said about your kids, you were panicking on the inside on the plane, but you didn't show it. And that's the thing. You just don't show it. In corporate America, I remember reading a book at the time when I was in corporate America, and it was, I can't remember the name of the book, but it said, never let them see you cry. You know? Now it's different now. You know, I was in a different time, but as a woman, and you've heard women of my age say this before, as a woman in corporate America, you had to act like a man. And by that we mean you didn't show your emotions. And so you just dealt with the facts, and you dealt with what was going on in an unemotional way. Now, what I found out that is most effective is when you're dealing with race, when somebody has, you know that it's racial what they're doing to you. You want to react. That's the first thing you want to do. You want to tell them off. You want to, for me, I always stepped back. I didn't say anything then, but then I confronted it every single time, one-on-one with the person who did it. With the person who did it.
Yeah, that's important.
Even when I heard them say things in the room that wasn't directed at me, I would confront it calmly, one-on-one. Why did you just say that? Do you understand what you just said? You know, and they're not expecting it. See, they're not expecting that kind of response. So it's been effective for me.
Right. And they're probably not expecting to be called out or held accountable for their words.
Exactly.
So, I mean, well, first of all, I'm so sorry for the loss of your husband. I don't want to let that slip by. But I also appreciate you having the courage to stand up for yourself. That is so important too, I think, in leadership, not for people to know that you've got their back. And so if you step up and you hold people accountable for doing the things that they say they're going to do, or for the words that they chose,
Right.
Whether they were appropriate or inappropriate or whatever it was, but you addressed it. You didn't shy away. You didn't back down, but you dealt with it head on, face to face. That took courage to be able to do that. And you did. And so I think it's important for our audience to know that sometimes standing up for yourself can feel scary at first, because who these people are all up here on this level, and here you are down here, and you are feeling like you're down here, not equal.
Right.
But you still have to stand up for yourself directly with that person in a respectful way, letting them know what they did that was wrong or incorrect, or how your thoughts on how they maybe could have handled it better or differently, so that it didn't have such a negative impact on when the words landed on people.
Exactly. You hit it on the head. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So then, as we're trying to lead with love and care, how can we do that without seeming soft or losing authority?
Good question. And I think we go back to, if you respect the values we talked about, respect and seeing everybody as a person, that's the first thing. But you build up that through your actions, when you act quickly in chaos, it builds the character, it builds your authority, it demonstrates your authority. Let me put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
The way you handle situations demonstrates your authority. And at the core, it's about you valuing other people's and respecting other people.
Mm-hmm.
The compassion comes through every time. And the resilience is, again, just keeping it, getting stronger each time.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Right. So in order to not look soft or seem soft or lose authority, just start out having respect for the other person.
Right.
And see them as people. And
when people see you stand up for yourself or for them, that's the key image of authority. Yes. And not being soft,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely, 100%. Yeah. So it all goes together. It all goes together.
It does. It all fits together. It really does. Yes.
Yeah. So when you stand up for yourself and you hold people accountable, that is a display of strength.
Exactly. You hit it
go ahead.
You hit it on the head. And the other thing that as leaders that we cannot do is allow what appears to be small things in the workplace to let them go because they're just too hard to deal with or whatever. Because again, sometimes chaos starts as a small thing and blows up into a big thing. So if you, in your organization, if you see something that is destructive to the organization and to your mission, and it's maybe just somebody just using disinformation or just mistaken of the vision or whatever, those kind of things you do have to catch early because they can end up stopping your progress.
Right, exactly. And one of the things too I found is that sometimes when we are privy to what is happening in someone else's situation, we can use that to help coach our own team and say, look, y'all, I know this particular thing happened over here with these folks. We don't want that to be our story.
Exactly right.
So let us do this, and this,
right.
so that we don't have that kind of situation.
Yep, that's answering the why. What's in it for me? Why do I want you to act this way and not that way? Well, look what happened to them over there when they acted that way.
That's
The strong examples. Yep.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yep. So we don't have to make all the mistakes ourselves.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
So Irma, what lessons from your own personal life have most impacted how you lead and coach others?
That's a kind of a hard one because, I've never been able to dissect things. It's just the whole, that I think about. So I would say it's compassion has come from personal loss. And so that's impacted that part of it, personal loss. And then the other part of it is, I think, working for bad bosses, because I learned so much from them what I didn't want to do. You know what I mean? So, yes. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I said yes. It was me. I have some stories that I could tell of these bad bosses that we don't want to be like. So yes, that is a very, very good point. So I guess even bad bosses serve a purpose.
They do. They absolutely do. They absolutely do.
Yeah, so that we know what not to do or how not to behave or how not to treat people.
Right.
Do the opposite. Do the opposite of what they did and we'll be good.
Right. Exactly right. Yeah.
Oh, that is so good. So if you could give us one piece of advice to a leader who's currently facing a storm, what would that advice be?
I'll reiterate it again. The first is, and I've said this before, but it's so important. The first thing is to stay calm on the outside, because people are looking at you. So I think that would be the first, and they go together. Stay calm, act quickly.
Yeah.
Assess and act quickly. That will, and don't worry about it being wrong at that point. You calm, assess, act, because you'll always be able to go back and modify or go back and do changes. But it's the most important thing is to bring some order to the chaos as quickly as you can.
Yes. That's great advice. Thank you. Now, Irma, we're wrapping up our show today, and I know that people want to learn more about this dynamic of leading through chaos and being, especially how to navigate these waters that we're currently in that are so unknown and uncertain of from one day to the next. How can people reach you and stay in touch with you and, maybe get further the conversation?
Through my website is onyx2rise.com. There's a contact form on there for you to fill out. My email address is Irma Neal at onyx2rise.com. You're able to make an appointment for a consultation. There's the contact form. You're able to make an appointment for a consultation, and it's my passion to help, to try to bring some understanding and success to our people in any way that I can.
Wow. And what great websites you have, a great LinkedIn page, very welcoming and inviting. And I love it. Plan to rise. So when you reach out to Irma, you need to be planning to rise because that's what's going to happen.
Exactly.
After you meet with her. Well, Irma, this has been such a great time together. And I think the book you have written, Leading in Chaos, Insights to Lead Through the Storms. Tell us more about that book. Just where can people find the book in case they can't get to you quickly?
It's on Amazon and Audible, and it is a compilation of true stories. Some of them are incredible. Within 30 days it was a dysfunctional organization, and I was recruited to take this organization. And every day I'll say my mouth fell open because it was much worse than I had been told. Within 30 days, there were 2 heroin overdoses in the office within 30 days. There was extreme bullying by one person in the office. There was Washington, D.C. is highly political. And so everything was like, in the papers, if you will. So I had that to deal with too. And it's just, I have one chapter in there called Troublemakers. It just talks about how to assess a organization coming in and what you need to do. And then one of the things that stands out is that even when the troublemaker acts like they share, well, let me put it this way, it's passive aggressive behavior and how you deal with that in the workplace too. Incredible situations in there. I mean, as I look back on it, I think, girl, why didn't you go home?
That's a lot. You put up with a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on. So, yeah.
Wow. But you helped them navigate through it all. You navigated through it all. You learned so many life lessons that you're now able to share with us. So every step of our journey is serving a purpose, whether it's for us in that time and space or for somebody else in the future that we don't even know about.
Exactly.
And who knows, years from now, when folks are watching this podcast, you're impacting lives even into the future. We don't know. So thank you so much for all you do, for all you've done. You've been an amazing guest on the show. Irma, you were made for something great. So go and be awesome.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.